Kia ora all. Can we please do two for the karakia? E te whānau whānui o Horueka Haimata, whae te mataranga kia marama, a hākua ngā piki me ngā hiki. Tu te wairua, tu te ora, tu te mauri ora. Ko te mea nui kia haumaru te noho, haumie, huie, tai kie. E noho. I would now like to welcome Mrs. Skelton to the stage.
Ka tangi te titi, ka tangi te kaka, ka tangi hoki a hau, tihei mauri ora. Nau mai, haere mai, ki te kura o Horueka Haimata. Nei rā, nā mana whenua o Ngāti Rua Hiki Hiki e mihi ana kia koutou. Ko Rachel Skelton tōku ingoa. I am the tumuaki of Horueka Haimata Rolleston College. Our gifted name means the flourishing lancewood, and the purpose of this evening is to explore what we must do and what we must consider to ensure that we continue to flourish into the future. We acknowledge our invited guests, including mana whenua, our members of the Selwyn District Council, including our Deputy Mayor, our wider whānau from Ngā Peka o Tauwhare Kakahau, the group of schools that make up our local area, our learners, our parents, our future learners and our future parents. I also acknowledge the Ministry of Education for being here tonight to listen to our community. David and Sharon from Property and Coralanne, our Director of Education for the Canterbury region. We really appreciate your presence here. I want to mention three significant people in our community that I have spoken with this week who have reached out and offered their support, but were not able to be here this evening. Liz Brown from Te Taumutu Runanga, Mayor Sam Broughton, and Nicola Grigg, our local Member of Parliament. The Prime Minister declined our invitation to attend, and Erica Stanford's office declined the invitation to attend at 4:30 this afternoon. The format for this evening will be an outline of Rolleston College's infrastructure journey to date, the current situation, and what we are seeking, and most importantly, why. We will then hand over to the Ministry of Education for a response, followed by some time for questions from community members. We will then close with an opportunity for members of the community to give feedback on the boards out in the foyer to help inform next steps. Rolleston College is your local school. We continue to achieve highly whilst offering opportunities for young people to learn in a way that suits them. And we try to offer choice and voice in our model of education. Our NCEA certification is higher than the national average for levels 1, 2 and 3. Last year, we were really proud of the 2 arts scholarships that learners attained. We perform exceptionally well in sport, including national, South Island and local titles, and have a number of representative athletes. Our bilingual provision is growing in numbers, with increasing numbers of whānau choosing a bilingual pathway. This year, we introduced Pacific Studies, Samoan and Tongan language. And last night's Whiawhia night was an amazing occasion. In the performing arts, our learners enjoy positive representation in the community, in dance, in music, and in drama. And we have a very important partnership with our local theatre company, Centre Stage Rolleston. Our learners contribute positively to our community, and they love to volunteer their time to help others. Our learners seek to make a difference. A recent example being Children's Day, where many learners volunteered their own time to support our local community. Our journey in school property has not been a smooth one, and I outline our timeline of property provision up till now. Campus 1, the building we stand in today, is built for 1,100 students. It was always acknowledged that Rolleston would grow quickly, and the then Principal Steve Saville wrote an education brief for the extension that is under construction now in 2018. So there have now been 6 years between the submission of that design brief and the expansion being near completion. The expansion to the current site is due to be completed in July of 2024. Between 2020 and 2024, the grounds of our relatively small physical site have become full of prefabricated classrooms. Instead of a decision to begin our expansion earlier, permanent buildings were delayed in favour of modular, quick fixes despite our growing role. We have had no access to our school gymnasium since August of 2023. And whilst we are not ungrateful for the improvements on the site, it is very clear that the infrastructure has not kept up with growth, meaning that a large number of classes are not currently able to be housed in the main building. The permanent buildings on the current campus, once the extension opens, are designed to hold 1,800 students, which is about where we are now. With modular buildings, that increases, but modular buildings are temporary. And some of these modular buildings are sitting on our car parks and our play areas. Then we come to Campus 2. We started engaging in a really exciting process of planning towards this campus in 2021. After public engagement, first by an independent consultant, and then with the school, around what secondary provision could look like in Rolleston, we wrote and submitted a design brief in February of 2022. We have since that time been working towards refining structures to work across 2 campuses. For example, current parents will know that this year we are trialling a 6-day timetable to allow more flexibility across lines, to allow teachers to move between campuses if needed. The initial opening date of the second campus was January 2025. It was then pushed out to July 2025. And then, where we find ourselves now, the beginning of 2026. You will see in the messaging behind me that we have continuously received from the Ministry of Education, and this information disseminated on the slides is publicly available and reported in the media. The information gave us no reason to feel concerned about the progress of the second campus. In December of 2021, campus announced to accommodate population growth in one of the country's fastest growing areas. The new campus will provide excellent facilities for the growing community, as reported in October 2023. And the week before, the 29th of February, fit-for-purpose learning environments were still being communicated by the Ministry of Education to the school. In 2023, in correspondence between Simon Cruikshank, who is a late apology this evening, and the school, it was communicated that the campus would be delivered up to the build roll of 1,500 over 3 years, and the master plan roll of 2,100 beyond this as numbers dictated. You can then imagine our dismay on the 29th of February that with no prior warning or consultation, we were presented with a copy of the plan that you see on the right. It is a very long way off what we had worked towards over the years preceding. Our plan we based on educationally sound practices, government directives, the feedback collected at the numerous community consultations, and what we know of our learners and community, paired with the amazing opportunities within our local area to partner further with businesses and the tertiary sector. We produced a plan for our community that we believe provides learning environments that cater for all areas of the New Zealand curriculum up to NCEA Level 3, and other essential services needed to run a functioning school. The plan presented by the Ministry of Education on the 29th features only 2 permanent buildings, a science and technology building, and a quite significantly remodelled gym. This build was always going to be staged, but the ministry had given assurances around quick progression with no significant delay between stages, and that the whole campus, with its functional parts, would be completed in 3 years. The Science and Technology building is largely designed, but still to be further value engineered. We received a plan yesterday at 4 p.m. that we had not seen before, and we have some questions around it that we have directed back to the Ministry of Education. The total redesign to a single gymnasium means that what was removed from our plan was a double court gym, with the wider building also housing counsellors' offices, pastoral care, additional changing rooms, a cardio room that would have initially doubled as a dance studio or drama room for the first stage of construction, a sports office, a student reception, a staff room. In the ministry's plan, a single playing field would be the grounds provided for sports and physical education curriculum. We are not sure what sports this meagre offering would actually allow us to play, or where one of our growing sports, cricket, fits in. Probably most concerning of all from that meeting was for the rest of the school, all of the other stages. There were no assurances to progress any further planning or design. Any further stages would be based on numbers, not curriculum provision. And this approach is not educationally sound. We were told at that meeting that portacoms would make up the rest of the entire school. When asked what these buildings would be like, and if they would be like the modular provision built locally in the I-Zone, we were definitively told no, that the modulars that we have are too expensive and our provision would be of lesser quality and potentially second-hand. Buildings currently at Dovedale Avenue were discussed. No further discussion on a wider full school plan has occurred to date. We need a functional school rather than a couple of buildings and some portacoms. Our growth has been constant, and in 8 short years, we have grown from 225 students to 1,800. Historically, infrastructure has not kept up with the growth for our school. We've had our turn of being deprioritised whilst others were prioritised. We know the growth will continue. We see it in our primary schools. We have collated data from all primary schools in our feeder area, and the growth using this data suggests a 25.5% increase in Rolleston College's role by 2027. This increase is only based on their current school roles. It does not account for the new primary school due to be built or any further subdivisions to come online. The experience of educators within our area is that we tend to get an unknown number of approximately or minimum of 60 enrolments during the year from outside of the local area. There are currently important school functions that have been stripped away, and some now have no provision in terms of the master plan. We need to be able to teach NCEA Level 3 in all areas of the curriculum. We joked about bringing a saxophone into the Ministry of Education main office area, an area not built for that function, and seeing how it affected the work of those around it. As learners get older, they specialise more, and they need facilities to support this. There has been much talk about bespoke design and nice-to-haves. Libraries, supported learning spaces, canteens, art rooms, music rooms, drama rooms, a theatre or auditorium, bilingual and cultural spaces, front offices, counselling rooms. These are school services. They are not nice-to-haves. We have asked the Ministry of Education to provide examples of new schools being built without these facilities. To date, we have had no response. We know that the campus that we stand in tonight is highly spec'd. It is an expensive building. Under a PPP arrangement where the ministry essentially leases this building from a private company for 25 years and another company looks after the maintenance. This PPP arrangement helps to take some of the building cost away, but the arrangement comes with its own issues, with major frustrations around the level of care of the facility, particularly the grounds, and little power for the school to change this, and a bank of hours system that limits the use of the campus by the school and community. We are so looking forward to being able to share more of our school with the community on the other site without some of the restrictions that we face here. We understand that the buildings at the other campus might not be as high spec as this campus, but we hope for facilities that were more functional and driven by essential services and the size of the future role. We hope for functional facilities as a priority, rather than what looks nice architecturally, like our foyer. It looks beautiful, but it's a large echo chamber and is not overly functional in a school setting. Principals come and go, politicians come and go, but a school is a long-lasting asset for a community and should be built with future generations in mind. It's really great to see those who have been able to come along tonight, and we acknowledge that there are many who have also submitted their thoughts to the school through a Google form, well over 100 in fact, and we've read them all. We intend to collate and send them to the Ministry, to the Minister of Education, and to the Prime Minister next week. We have an online petition with over 2,500 signatures. The staff and board of this school are far from the only people who cannot fathom the direction taken by the Ministry of Education not to continue with a plan of continuous construction over the next 3 years to complete the campus. So in summary, we seek a functional school. Any buildings on the current site cannot be counted towards provision for a school that is 2.5 kilometres away. We seek an acknowledgement of growth needing to be matched by appropriate and fit-for-purpose infrastructure. We seek the removal of many of the temporary classrooms on this site by 2026 so we can gain back some of our green space and have the campus completed. There are facilities for kids to use, for example, outdoor half basketball courts that can't be completed as they're currently covered by a modular building. We seek a discussion of our master plan to be put back on the table with input on how all of the parts of a school could be catered for in the design. We are not asking for anything that you would not expect to find at any large secondary school in New Zealand. And we seek a commitment to a plan over the next 3 years to build the functional high school that is needed in this community. I would imagine any continued delay in inaction in progressing this construction will likely negate any savings that are hoped for by the ministry anyway. What we seek is not unreasonable and is driven by a need to provide for the young people in our local area. We are still very hopeful that the Ministry of Education has thought about the provision needed to cater for our growing community, both prior to this evening and post listening to our voices, and will come back with a more palatable and workable plan than what has been presented up until now. As an English teacher by trade, you still have the opportunity to be the hero in this story. So I now hand over to David Hoburn from the Ministry of Education for a response before opening to the floor for questions or comments. Nō reira, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa.
Tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. Ko David Hoburn, toku inga. Good evening, everyone. I am the National New Schools Program Manager representing the Ministry of Education. My colleagues here, Coraline Child, Director of Education for Canterbury and the Chatham Islands, and Sharon Wong, Capital Works Program Manager. Thanks, Rachel. Very succinct, and I enjoyed it. Thank you. I'll try and respond to as many of those points as I can, and I'm sure there'll be some which I can't. I would like to show you what is currently proposed for the first stage of Rolleston College second site. This is the plan. So this is the plan that Rachel said, which I sent over at 4 p.m. yesterday. Now, on this plan, there is a 2-storey, 23 teaching space STEM building, science, technology, engineering and maths building. There is no change to the current design. There's a single court gymnasium with a single teaching space, currently configured to be a weights room. So this is the ministry standard gymnasium now for a single court. There's car parking, there is basic landscaping, there's a hard court area beside the gymnasium, there's a single 1 football size playing field, there's all the infrastructure for all the future master plan size for the whole site, there's footpaths around the site to Selwyn Road, Sprinkston Rolleston Road and Hungerford Drive, pedestrian crossings. The total cost for this is $50 million. On top of this $50 million investment for stage 1, we need to deliver facilities that enable the college to deliver their curriculum requirements across the 2 college sites. We'll be working with the college on the concerns raised with their proposals in order to achieve that. In response to this, we'll be providing 12 to 16, whatever the number needs to be, short-term role growth teaching spaces. These can be configured to suit the educational needs of the school. This will allow for a roll of approximately 650 students on the site. These works are expected to be complete for the start of the 26 school year. As you'll see on the plan, it's the entire plan for the master plan for the site. We will continue to plan for these future stages. We'll need to deliver these stages to support the needs of the college. The timing of the delivery of these stages will be subject to funding we receive through budgets. We will need to respond to the priorities across the country within the funding we receive for new schools, expansions and role growth. Rolleston is a fast-growing area and we need to provide the necessary accommodation to that. However, we need to balance the investment we are making to ensure that other schools across the country have the need for new places or urgent replacement in response to condition that also needs to be delivered. As Rachel's already mentioned, in addition to the new site works, this site here has got stage 2, which is due to be open for the start of term 3. It's also got the 21 short-term role growth teaching spaces that Rachel mentioned as well. These are here until the end of 2025. The Ministry and the college may agree that if needed they can stay here or they can move on. That's up to discussion between us. And that's pretty it. Short and sweet presentation. Nā reira, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. Thanks.
Ko Sophie Ralph tōku ingoa. Thank you, David. We appreciate your response on behalf of the Ministry. We're now going to hand over to the community to pose any questions or feedback or responses for either the school or for the Ministry representatives that are here. We've got some students around the place that have got some microphones, so just pop your hand up if you wish to speak and address anyone up on stage here. Just one thing I'd like to mention, you mentioned a build for this space for 650 learners. By the time our current cohorts go through to that site, we will have 800 learners. And this is a little bit of a different message that we heard on the 29th of February. So questions from the floor.
Kia ora tātou. Oh, wow. I'm here. I'm going to stand so my back's not to anybody. Kia ora, ko Mel tōku ingoa. I'm a local teacher. Don't hold that against me. But I'm actually a parent, and I had 3 children at this school. Now currently have 2. We had a community consultation about what we wanted, and we signed a form to say we wanted 2 campuses. Now, in doing that, we didn't want to compromise the children's learning, but that's what's happened. Rolleston is the fastest growing community in New Zealand. There's been no foresight with this. You want 2 campuses, you could have built 2 schools. The delay with COVID, I understand completely, but everything else has come about due to the changes with money. Now, you're holding our kids to ransom for money. That's what it comes down to. We know the cost of building schools because we've actually all watched local schools be built. So prior to 2010, there was 1 primary school, and every school since then has been built. Clearview, Rolleston Christian School, help me out, West Rolleston, Lemonwood, we've built, Te Roho Te Whio was our last school. Trust me, every school costs about 30 to 50 million to build. If you do the math for our children, you don't have enough space. And this, I'm sorry, is poor. You've done it without any community consultation. You've got smart people up there with degrees who know what our kids need, and that's not okay.
Any response?
Hi. I can't believe we're having this conversation again. I stood up and spoke to you at Lemonwood. You were basing your numbers on the students, on information that is an average across the country. When are you going to come and visit and see how many children live here? You haven't even, Rachel didn't include the number of subdivisions that have been approved and are currently under construction and all those extra houses. You're saying it's money. Each of those people are taxpayers in New Zealand, so there is more money coming into the pot. You can't just ignore the fact that you're approving land to be developed, well, not yourself, but the government and the local council are approving land to be developed, and there is no thought put into the infrastructure that's needed for these children. You need to use the right information to make the decisions. You cannot use the national average. It does not work in Selwyn.
Kia ora everyone. Ko Lawhaile toku ingoa. Recently moved here from Auckland. My daughter goes here, and sitting here and listening to the plans that you have, I actually have an issue with it as well. And to see that we've got councillor's office removed, knowing that well-being is well ahead of attendance. I work in the attendance space and I see the struggle out there, but this plan, you can just chuck in the rubbish. Yeah. Thank you.
So the temporary teaching spaces which you're going to provide, how they're configured and what they're used for, that's a discussion which we can have with the school. So if we want to provide student spaces or support spaces in those buildings, we can.
Yeah, but what does Portacoms, how is that healthy for our kids? That makes no sense. Yeah. I know you're just doing what you're told. The Prime Minister's not here. The Minister of Education. It goes to show what this government is like.
Kia ora, Raphael, thank you. We've got another parent here and one up on stage at some point. Thank you.
One question. I may have misheard, but you said the science and the technology block were being built exactly as the plans. There was no mention of arts. Now, arts is part of the well-being. I felt I was listening to an episode of The Simpsons. There needs to be a provision for arts. Now, you said it's multi-purpose rooms, but they are just as specialised as the science and technology. Did I miss the art thing?
No, you heard correct. So the science and technology and education, engineering and maths building is as designed and with input from the school. You can laugh again. The temporary buildings can be configured, and if it chooses that we want to put arts in there, we'll configure them for arts.
Why?
Kia ora,
are we
thank you,
getting
David.
science?
As a former head of music who had to go through a rebuild at a previous school in town, a low decile school, we reconfigured lots and lots of spaces to make sure they were soundproof. This was a year 7 to 13 college. We're looking for spaces that can support our performing arts students to a senior level, to go to industry, to go to vocational pathways and into the world. So a couple of dividers in a room is not necessarily going to work, and I look forward to playing the saxophone in your office next week.
Kia ora. My name's Philip Dean. I'm one of the councillors from Selwyn District Council. I've got a question for you. Governments and councils go out to consultation, as you did when you developed this school and developed the new campus and every other school within the district. What consultation have you done for this?
So this whole plan has been in consultation with the board. The stage one. So yep. So I'll go back to the earlier statement that we can only do so much with the funding we've got, and we're going to have to wait for more funding through future budget bits to do future stages. Oh, okay. Yeah, no. We proposed this. We proposed this to the school on the 29th. I'll hand over to Caroline as well.
Kia ora. Can I just clarify, and to our councillor, thank you for your question. When the Ministry of Education is looking to establish a new school, as we were in Rolleston and have multiple times, we did engage in consultation, and as one of the whānau here tonight said, that the community, despite trends nationally of wanting standalone new schools, actually said we want a second campus. Quite unusual for any community. However, Christchurch is unusual. We've had exactly this scenario just built in Belfast as well, with a primary school wanting to be in a split campus. So that part doesn't concern us. From a community consultation point of view, the school already exists. The community has already determined it be a split site. Therefore, there is no legal requirement for consultation, but there is an just as when you're building, when you've gone out with your long-term district plan and you identify for the community what you're looking to establish, and then you actually get into a process of doing that. The board, with all due respect, is elected as your community representatives, and it is right, and I'm not saying in this situation that it is to the board's satisfaction or anyone else, and that's why we've got to get back around the table to actually make sure we are hearing and understanding each other. That engagement needs to happen with the board. So I appreciate that you're saying you need to consult. I'm just saying to you, there is a difference between engaging and consulting, and councillor, there is no legal requirement for consultation, all right? There was also a question around network and network planning. I just want to clarify with you that actually there isn't a national average that we are working off for Rolleston community. We can already identify the growth with council. My network planners actively are working with Rolleston Council in regards to your future growth. That includes future developments. It would be fair to say that sometimes I think both council and ministry are surprised when a development starts happening in a different part of town than what was potentially first planned for. No, I'm actually talking about when we are planning for future growth in an area to where we think that may head. It makes no difference to us because at the end of the day, The numbers of students coming into the town will generate the need for additional primary schools and secondary. And the primaries, we've made no secret of this, that we also envisage further primary school provision needed in Rolleston. So, and just as we have got for the secondary. But what I want to remind you is, this isn't some national formula that we're inflicting on Rolleston. This is Rolleston community data and forecasting between the ministry, council and other areas that of course generate that planning, all right?
So thank you, Caroline. We really appreciate your response. We will stick to using the microphones. We want to make sure that we're putting our best foot forward. So if you can just pop your hands up, and we've got a gentleman there in the middle. Thank you.
Ko Drew Winter, tuku ingoa. Many questions, but let's start with one. How long is temporary? Like, we've seen temporary buildings before in schools, and temporary, in my opinion, is not 10, 15, 20 years. So when you say we've got these temporary classrooms, how long is the school expected to use temporary facilities? Thank you.
Until we get future budget, we can't determine how long it's going to be. It's the answer I've got. I can't give you any other answer.
Thank you, David.
Hello. I understand the school has been given these plans at the last minute on 2 occasions. And given the impassioned speech by the principal, I can barely imagine a less dismissive response than was received this evening. Why has the communication from the ministry been so poor, and what will you do to change it going forward?
Yeah, we're really keen to get around the table and talk with the board and the principal, absolutely, and get through and try and resolve this as best we can. I think we've got a meeting booked, and next meeting is on Monday morning.
Hey, it's me again. So I've sat in some of these classrooms, I've seen how it works, and it doesn't work. So what you're saying about temporary classrooms, we're seeing nowadays more neurodiverse kids with high needs. They're not going to be able to work in those spaces. So what are you guys going to do about it?
On this campus right here, there are temporary buildings and this wonderful building here, and they're all great buildings. So I don't really have an answer.
Are they functional? No, they're not.
I think.
In the classrooms, no, you haven't. So you're up there pushing your pen, signing whatever, and you don't know what it's like for us and our kids. Yeah. So I think that's a common theme of this government as well. All pink pushers who don't know what we're experiencing. Anyway, sorry, thank you.
Thank you for recognising the theme. We've got a question from one of our head students.
Kia ora, my name is Mackenzie Wills and I'm one of the head students here at Horueka Haumata. Last year, I sat in on a board meeting with Ministry of Education representatives to share my concerns on the campus. I'm now here again tonight, sharing the same concerns. And it actually makes me really emotional. This is no longer just about the buildings. It is about the future of our young people. This school has provided me with so many opportunities. They have opened doors that would never have been opened. And I am forever grateful to our principal, to our SLT, to our teachers, to my other cohort, to the rest of the head students sitting up here tonight. You as an organisation are not providing us with our needs. and it's actually not okay anymore. I do thank you for sitting up here tonight. I understand that that is probably not easy. But you have heard our community time and time again saying that this is not good enough, and it's not. I have a sibling here at Rolleston College. I have younger cousins. I have sat here for 5 years in the seats of these buildings. I have even sat on the floors in the corridor because there is not enough space. I fear for the future of our community, for the future young people of our community, that they will have to sit on the floor in corridors, and that is not fair. We are fighting for our right to have an education, and I should not have to fight for that right. Thank you.
Kia ora, I'm Rob Hunt. I'm a parent of 2 children here at the school, but also presiding member of one of our local primary schools. The passion you're hearing tonight, it says more than the words I'll say. But I do want to call upon the fact that the response I'm seeing from ministry tonight does not give confidence that we are in a position where these plans are going to be updated to a position which is what is needed. I appreciate ministry as a vessel of government, and the role that you play is restricted by what you're given, but there is a role that we all have to play when we say not good enough, and this is not good enough. And to stand here and accept that line is a failure to every child, every future child that will come to the school, and for the generations that come. And I'll talk to money. We talked about money, and we talk about the budget that sits here for this. Well, the way I see it is we're spending money on a long-term investment, but with a short-sightedness, and by cutting costs today, there'll be extra costs for the temporary classrooms to be removed. There'll be extra costs for the new consultation of building. There'll be extra costs for every single part of this, not forgetting the well-being cost, not forgetting the wider economic costs that come from this. We have children who will come out of this school with well-being issues because of the fact that the ministry has failed them. And then those children will be the ones picking up the cost as taxpayers because the ministry has deferred that cost to the future. It's just not okay.
Kia ora, my name is Lindy Shaw, and as you know, I was the previous board chair. My concern is that we approached the ministry back in 2018 for our extension that is still not yet open, and we've been working with temporary buildings on this site, gaining more and more, and yet the ministry has known our position when it comes to population growth for some time. We then got the new campus promised as a, because we could identify that an extra school was needed quite some time ago, but it takes process, and I'm very aware of the consultation process. And so then it became, yes, you will get this campus, yes, you'll need this many buildings until this campus is ready. This campus will be ready in in fact, I think initially it was 2024, but now 2025. And then you've come along, we have spent months, it's been a slow process, going through consultation, having your ministry people check the plans, they've put their input into it, your review panels had a look, it's come all the way through. You came and made a commitment to this community that a new campus was being built, that then got pulled down that it would be done in stages. We then agreed as to the stages so that the full campus, and we looked at which buildings would be needed. We identified what was needed in the first stage as urgent, because you cannot run a senior campus without all of the buildings, but we as a community and a board, we compromised. We have continued to compromise with the ministry since the day this school opened. Now, our temporary buildings that were in the car park initially had a 2-year resource consent because that's how long it was going to take to get the extension done. It is now 2024. We've got those buildings, the second tranche of temporary buildings, the third tranche of temporary buildings, and you expect us to have faith when you say about temporary buildings in the campus down the road? Experience tells us not to. I really like the previous speaker. First of all, we can't work without the plans that were. You have known for years that this was coming. So when you say you have no budget, you have a budget. You need to change the figures and how that works so that this community gets what it's deserved and has deserved for many years, and you have known in your planning about the growth of this. Cost effective is not. And we have been more than lenient. It's time for you to man up and actually front up with what you promised.
I think, yep, okay, mine is on? Still on? Right, thank you, sorry. All right, I've got, I think, 3 points to make. First of all, our family's only been in Rolleston a couple of years, so we missed out on the first round of consultation. But I was in Christchurch during the quakes. There was a big council-driven consultation as to what Christchurch wanted to be post-quake, and then the national government of the day chucked that out, stuck a bunch of guys in a room and presented a new plan as a fait accompli. And I'm getting strong vibes of the very same thing happening here. That there's all this consultation being done in good faith, and suddenly, what was it worth? Secondly, I would like to appreciate the position the ministry is in. You are stuck between what I'm sure you know the community needs on the one hand, and the budgets and political directives you are given on the other. So I will thank you for showing up tonight knowing that you are going to be facing a hostile audience. Finally, on behalf of my actual family, we currently have 1 child at the school. Next year we will have 2. Both of our children are neurodiverse, and our family very much shares the concern that, particularly going into the senior college spaces, that those needs are not going to be catered for. We have gone through the process with the school this year to cater for our my stepdaughter, my wife's daughter, and props to the school for how they've handled that, and that's great. But they do at least have the facilities here. There does seem to be a shared concern that there is a strong danger that that will not be provided for in the new facility, at least not in the first round. Thank you very much.
Kia ora. I'd like to also thank you for coming, and it's a shame that the people who are determining your budgets didn't show up. They were very active as opposition. I just wanted to ask a clarification question about the buildings. When you say that people can determine what those are for, do you mean there's a finite number and then they decide if it's drama or a classroom?
Yeah, effectively, yeah. Yep. I'd just like to take this opportunity as well. We love your passion, really do, okay? We really do appreciate your passion. I'll say it is reasonably hard for us to be up here, but we definitely wanted to be here. We wanted to hear it. So yeah, I do just want to say that now. I do appreciate your passion. Thanks.
Thank you. Just to clarify, that to maybe help with that, we have submitted to the ministry a plan of how we want the buildings set up and what they might be used for, so that we can cater as best we can, when we knew that it was going to be a staged approach. I'm aware that the gentleman up there has been waiting a wee while. Thank you.
Hi. We moved to West Melton 10 years ago. The school's grown massively. To give you an example, my son, who's now here, had to do a couple of years in the school hall as the school was growing and developing. And that school still has temporary portacoms that are needing regular maintenance because they were built in the 70s. Now he's here and he's looking at senior school, and we're going to be putting him back in portacoms. Is his whole education based now out of portacoms? Is that the way things are looking? And this is just the human element that I'm saying as an example of what is happening for the students. But I've just got one other question that really I'd like an answer for. How many other schools across the country are going through the same thing?
So first of all, it was great to get a West Melton reference because that's where I was born and bred, and I went to West Melton School as well, just to let you know. So I was probably in the same rooms as your son. Just probably a different time. Unfortunately, there are probably quite a few other schools going through a similar situation. Now, not exactly the same situation, but other situations where we've got to put on temporary classrooms. Now, we keep saying portacoms. Portacoms are brand. They are very, very temporary classrooms. The classrooms we're going to be putting on as a short term will not be necessarily portacoms. They could be purpose-built, but just very, very efficiently purpose-built. And purpose-built for dance, for anything else we need to do to make it work. Yep.
So I'm just aware of time, and we'll take a couple more questions from the floor, and then we're just going to wrap up with one of our students. There is a facility for you to feedback, and we can take, as Rachel mentioned earlier, take your questions, comments and feedback to the Minister of Education, to the Prime Minister and the Ministry of Education. So just because you won't be heard here today, it doesn't mean we don't want to grab your feedback. So who has the mic at the moment? Sorry. Gentleman at the back, thank you.
Kia ora. My question is for the three of you, and also it's pretty emotional for me, is put yourselves in our shoes. If your kids were at the school, would you accept what you're asking us to accept? I come from a third world country and with a really bad government, and I'm getting flashbacks of that. So I want you to be honest with me right now. If your kids were in the school, would you accept what we are facing right now? That is my question to you. Honest answer, and I hope that you think about that when you go through the process with the board again. Put yourselves in our shoes. Would I have this for my kids? Because that's why these people are so passionate. That's why we live, for our children. Thank you.
Good answer.
So, kia ora, and thank you. Short answer to you is yes. I'm the mother of two sons. I have nieces and nephews, just as all of you. I've been with our principals, our boards, for many years now, but more significantly from the time of the earthquakes. And as a community and as an education network, collectively we have gone through so much. And we did dream the dream, and we did push on what we wanted the future of education to be. It was also important to us that the young people at that time worked alongside us so that their voice could be heard. So actually, a personal measure for me, and I'm sure for many of my colleagues, is actually, it doesn't matter whether it's about a student with neurodiverse needs, whether it be about a building property. The Ministry of Education is here to serve the education community and the students, the ākonga of our community. And as David said, we understand the passion. We are here committed to that journey, and we understand it's going to be fraught. The part I would be saying, if I was a parent of the school, is the ministry and the school, the board, and principal and staff actually working together to ensure the very best outcome that we can get with what is being the challenges and what is being put in front of us. So sorry, that was a long answer, but my answer to you is yes. 2 reasons. Wonderful facilities, but forget the facilities. For me, the heart of a school is in the teaching and learning. And as Rachel has already said, incredible teaching and learning happens in this school. And so I would be proud to have any member of my family attending here.
Okay, I'm just aware of time. I'm going to hand over to the Deputy Mayor. We're going to close questions from the floor, and we do invite you to put the feedback in. I understand that a lot of people do want to comment and give feedback, but I'm just aware of the time and that these folks, as mentioned before, have popped themselves up here to support and represent the Ministry of Education, and loads more people were invited, but they're here this evening, so we just need to respect their time as well. So I'll just hand over to the Deputy Mayor. Thank you.
Kia ora. What a position you find yourself in, Coraline. I've known you since the days of the earthquakes, when things were tipped upside down, and things have been tipped upside down for our communities by the 3-headed taniwha that is our government at this time. Our schools are the heart of our communities. They're the heart of our community development. Your school is not alone in its challenges, unfortunately. Leaston has had their development put on hold and really take a step back to the 50s. At the moment, we're taking a step back to the 90s. Leaston's in trouble. Lincoln High School, the newest block they got was poorly engineered, unfortunately, by the ministry, and has been pulled down. And they're in sea buses as well. So, I mean, it's very easy here now to point the finger of blame at the staff of the ministry, but they are doing as their political masters say. Their political masters have cut the cloth. And unfortunately, yeah, I am supporting you, Annette, and I'd just like to acknowledge ex-councillor Annette Foster here, and our other councillors here as well. We will carry on supporting the schools, all the schools in Selwyn. My point is that you are not alone in this battle. And we will carry on pushing for changes to government policy as we have the opportunity to. And the Mayor does have the opportunity to. He gives his apologies tonight. He's unable to be here. So choice and voice was the words put forward earlier on about this whole school, about choice and voice. It is the choices and voices we need. It is up to us to push forward what you want. We know what you want. And all I'm saying is don't shoot the messenger here tonight. These people have a job to do. They are being told what to do by their political masters. As a politician, I would certainly do my best to lobby on your behalf, and Selwyn District Council will continue to lobby on your behalf. We have seen 75% growth in this area in 10 years. We've seen multiple new schools provided. People have to have a choice of where they want to live. You can't just shut the gate because you're here and to allow other people in. So the ministry we were doing fine with under the previous regime. Things have changed. And all I can say is that you have a commitment from the Selwyn District Council to carry on lobbying the government for any changes we can get to funding to bring things forward in the future.
Thank you very much. We're going to hand over to Blair from Lemonwood Grove. Thank you.
Kia ora koutou, Blair Dravitsky, lead principal of Ngā Peka o Tauwhare Kākaho and principal at Tiru Tarata Lemonwood Grove School. Just in response, I've worked with the three up here quite regularly over the last 4 years I've been at Lemonwood, and they do have the best intent coming tonight. But what I would say in rebuttal to you, Coraline, in your comment, the 2 years and longer that Rachel's been working on this project, I know the stresses of this process. It is exhausting and it is stressful. Having good staff is one thing, but retaining them is another thing when they've got to teach in hallways and they don't have the resources to do their job. There is a shortage of teachers across the country, and any one of the high-quality teachers here at Rolleston College could pick up work anywhere else in a lot less stressful environment because they have the resources provided in some of the schools that are out there. At the moment, we are very fortunate in our community that we do have people, but at the moment, I have a staff room that's a classroom, I have a library that's a classroom, and I know the pressures Rachel's going to face in the future, and it's really, really, really hard. So when I see things like temporary buildings at Portacoms, I've lived it, I know exactly what it feels like, but at the same time, it's not temporary, as you heard from Drew on my board. They're long-term measures and it just doesn't work, and we need help now. The investment now, as Rob mentioned, is huge, only to rip them out and replace them in times to come. We've been fortunate at Lemonwood that we are good. We've got a beautiful new 2-storey building coming, but Rolleston College needs to be supported. Our roles, Sylvia's here with me, our roles are huge. They're booming through the doors. And Rolleston College is the preferred school for our community. They love coming here because of what you described, but that won't last forever because of the situation that's currently been put in front of us. So it's up to you guys to make it worthwhile for everyone in the community.
Kia ora, thank you, Blair. And I will hand back to Rachel to wrap things up tonight. And once again, look, it's amazing to have the support, and we had to close the questions to be fair to these folks' time.
Oh, I feel quite overwhelmed. Again, I just want to say thank you so much for your attendance this evening, for the ongoing support from our community, and I think you really have made your voice heard, and we will continue to advocate for what you want for the education of your children. There's further opportunity for you to add feedback to the boards out in the foyer and through online, through our website. As I said, the petition will be collated, the form data will be shared, and we're 100% committed to working in the best interests of our learners, and we will be guided by you. Once again, to the Ministry of Education, thank you for coming tonight. It is difficult. I've stood up in community consultation evenings that have been difficult as well, so I have empathy for that. I just ask that our messages go through to the government, and we'll try as hard as we can to put our messages through, but if we had your support in that, then that would be outstanding. And I'll just hand over to our Deputy Chair of our Board of Trustees, Barry Ward, to close this evening. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Barry Ward. I'm the Deputy Chair of the Board of Trustees of the College. I've been here since the first year it opened in 2017. I was fortunate to work with Lindley, who definitely kept a good ship and tried her best to keep the ministry in line. Congratulations and thank you very much for all of you turning up tonight. It's a very important part of the whole process is that you get to say something about what you feel, and we all love our kids, and that's an emotional thing. We want the best for our children, and I feel that the ministry have let us down badly and have continued to do so for years. When we first realised the numbers were going through the roof in 2018, we contacted the ministry and said, we've got to finish this school because we need it. We're definitely going to need it. Well, we don't just need it, it's desperate now. And when you listen to the head students talk about having their classroom time on the floor, that's going back 100 years. We shouldn't have to do that. It's the 21st century. This is a first world country. So we're employing the very best of people, and the board have worked diligently to keep the students at the centre of our focus. Everything we do is about what's best for the kids. The physical surroundings, they may not be as relevant as you say, but inadequate is not good enough. Just think about that. There's 1,800 plus students at this school, barely capable of taking 1,200. There isn't a square inch of this place we don't have to use for a learning space. The kids can't go outside and play. Half the facilities aren't available. We've had no gym for 8, 9 months or something? And it's just not good enough. And for the ministry to say, oh, we've only got this much to do it now, The board has spent years developing a plan to bring about a new phase of the education of our children in this community. And they deserve the new campus, and it deserves to be really good because we're among the most productive part of New Zealand, we're the fastest growing part of New Zealand, and we're all voting in New Zealand. So let's all put ourselves together here. The college is well served by the staff. There's so many of the staff still here tonight. There's a number of pupils here, but there are mostly parents here because it shows your motivation about, well, this is the future of my child, our children, the community, and therefore the whole of New Zealand. So the ministry need to take note of the fact that we will work with them, but we want them to produce something we're all proud of, that's fit for purpose, not a mismatch of products that have been thrown aside or cast aside. People talk about things they've used from the past. We need to have a purpose-built college, and we can't have one playing field. You're talking thousands of children, and we can't even get the football field turned around through 90 degrees. It's taken nearly 2 years of consultation, and that was the wrong size when they built it. So let's think about it. We've all got teenagers. They're currently located on another planet. They will come back to us. But we want to give them the best education we can. So thank you very much, everybody, for turning up, for giving your time, because it's valuable, and now we'll have to rush home and try and finish the rest of our days. And thank you very much to the ministry people, Coraline and David and Co. Thank you very much, and the board and everybody, because this is a very important part of our process, and we've given them the information they need, and let's hope they produce what we have and what we need for our children. Thank you very much.